Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Shavi Zane, and I'm coming on to bring a very important message for you all. So, I want to speak to you all in regards to one of the most horrendous acts that has ever been performed in the history of just as far back as we can remember, as generations, for many generations back, okay? One of the most torturous, horrendous things that has been revealed to me today. Not saying that I didn't see it before, but the way that it was shown to me today, I had to face myself. I had to, destroy, do a declaration on behalf of myself and my ancestors, as well as my offspring. So let's get right into it. I want to start off by telling you all about a specific person. I won't mention any names just yet, but there was a man, really good man, and he did a lot of great things for people, okay? And because of who he was and because of the light that he had, he ended up being murdered. He was murdered. And the most unfortunate part of his murder was that many of the people who were supposed to love him, many of the people, because this was a melanated man, many of the people who were supposed to be a part of his lineage, a part of his family, even whether it was blood or otherwise, many people who were supposed to honor him for what he did ended up becoming an accomplice to his murder. Many of these people, including myself and my ancestors, ended up doing rituals, spell work, um, and re-inflicting this wound over and over and over again from one generation to the next. Many different ceremonies have been performed, pretty much glorifying, giving praise, giving honor, giving thanks, paying people, singing, dancing, eating, festivals to give thanks for the murder and the torture of this man. Many of you might already know who this man is. This is Yeshua, one of the most tortured souls in history. If you ever want to think of someone who has already lived their life, the most purified soul is what was said, in Christ consciousness. And so therefore he was considered to be a Christ because he came in with much wisdom. He did a lot of work to heal others. He taught, and he came in with this energy that uplifted the souls of others in a very dark time where they were under the oppression of a system that told them that they had to either rock to their beat or they could lose their lives. Yeshua came in and performed something that many people would not have been able to do, especially during that time in history, because it was against the status quo. It was against what those so-called people in power, the authority, would have said was in alignment with their belief system. Okay. And so, because of this, he was sought out from a very young age, though, was sought out and was murdered because they understood what he came here to do, which was to awaken, to enlighten, to heal, to empower his people. And the worst part of what took place against Yeshua was not his murder, although that part was painful in and of itself. The worst part is that his soul still has not found rest because many of us melanated people continue to do rituals, ceremonies, reinventing the murder of our brother, wearing chains, putting up pictures of him being murdered and glorifying it. Now, some of you may watch this and you might say, no. What are you talking about? He came here to get killed. That's what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to get murdered. They were supposed to sacrifice him. Don't you understand? It was to absolve us of our sins. That's what he was supposed to do. So, of course, I'm going to give praise. Of course, I'm going to clap and sing and dance for his murder because that makes sure that I am no longer in sin. Even though, yeah, I wake up every day and I commit sin, but I'm good. I'm good because I acknowledge and I support the murder of Yeshua. So, because of this, I'm safe and I'm righteous. The man has never found rest. And this has been one of the biggest scandals that the enemy could have ever created against our people. It was already shown to me a while back that he was murdered. You know, I already knew that the sacrifice thing, he was a blood sacrifice for the powers that were. They needed to use the energy of someone who operated from a space of love and integrity and dignity and honor, and that possessed much wisdom and that had a heart of love of pure gold. They needed to sacrifice someone that possessed a power of that divine connection to the Most High. They needed that type of sacrifice. But more importantly than the murder of Yeshua, because that was a sacrifice where they actually did dark magic and rituals around the death of Yeshua. But more importantly, they needed the energy of specifically the melanated community. And the energy goes beyond the permission, first and foremost. They needed your permission to kill and to murder this man. And they've gotten it. Because every Sunday, for some multiple times throughout the week, you go to these churches and you dance and you sing and you cry and you throw money at the pastor's feet because you rejoice about the murder of a man that looked just like you. And then when you really look at it from a higher perspective, because your spiritual eyes got to be open to see what I'm talking about here. He who have ears, let him hear. We're the same ones that gets outraged and angered when we see the murder of our brothers and sisters and our children, the lynching, the sacrifice. And a lot of times we know that these are blood sacrifices. We know that this is organ harvesting. We know that these things are happening to people in our community, and we are outraged and we say something has to be done. The wickedness has to stop. But then you go back to church on Sunday and you give thanks for the murder and the blood sacrifice, blatantly, outright told to the world, made clear to the public, was not hidden, was not swept under the rug. They clearly tell you that it was a blood sacrifice. And not only do you give praise and honor and dance and you're jovial to it and you do rituals to it, but you also turn around and you say every first Sunday, I'm going to eat of his body and I'm going to drink of his blood. You have been an accomplice. Because I was a part of this too. In my sleep state, underneath the spell of the enemy, I was a part of it too. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And if I had not awakened, I would have been teaching my children to do the same, to celebrate the murder of a man who came in who looked just like me. His soul never finding rest because I'm always paying homage and giving praise and glorifying and doing rituals to re-inflict the wounds that was placed upon this man for doing nothing but righteous things to help his community. Can you imagine Imagine that. Someone, just take, if you set aside what I'm saying about Yeshua for a minute, because some of y'all won't be able to conceptualize this because you're so brainwashed in this mindset that it was supposed to happen that way, and that he knew it, and that he came here specifically for the sake of being murdered. Let's set aside Yeshua and say, okay, let's think about an Emmett Till. Can you imagine the most innocent, a young child who was innocent, okay, murdered, all because another group of people said that he committed a crime, he committed a sin. And they said, okay, well, the ultimate sacrifice should be his life. Can you imagine his family putting up a picture in their home of him being hung and slain and tortured? Can you imagine them putting that in their home and passing it down from one generation to the next, wearing chains and necklaces and shirts and, giving, celebrating his death, celebrating his murder, and saying, he came here for this? You would say that they was wicked. You would say that they was evil. You would say that they was the worst of the worst, and that they should be put to death right away or put underneath a jail for celebrating something so torturous and so painful. You couldn't imagine a person celebrating and doing ceremonies and rituals and reinventing and recreating the narrative of what happened to a tortured soul over and over and over and over again, giving people money, paying people money who stand out on the corner or in different churches that stand up and say, yes, let's talk about it. Let's celebrate the murder of Emmett Till. Let's celebrate it. Let's give thanks to the Most High that he was murdered. You couldn't imagine it. You would say it was the most evilest, wicked, most vile thing that a person could possibly do, but yet and still, our people celebrate the murder, the lynching, the torturous killing of Yeshua, a man who came to just do his assignment. He awakened to his purpose and he fulfilled his purpose. He stepped into his purpose with the intention that he would help heal, that he would help to awaken, that he would help to empower others. Yeshua did not come here, just like you did not come here, with the intention of being killed and murdered and tortured. But the enemy told you this because the enemy understood the psyche. The enemy understood that they have no divine connection to the Most High God. The enemy understood that they needed your permission because, see, these people have a history of human sacrifice. They still do it till this day. Many of you are well aware of this, but for some reason it just went right over our heads that Yeshua was one of their most ultimate human sacrifices. They said that he was the perfect sacrifice. The perfect sacrifice, because they said that he was unblemished, that he came in from a space of love, and that he had that divine connection to the Most High. For them, for the enemy, for the powers that were, Yeshua was the perfect sacrifice, because it gave them the ability to harness and to siphon the energy of a soul that was that pure. And then on top of that, they would gather our permission through our sing and dance and praise and rituals and, all of these things that we would end up doing from one generation to the next to celebrate the lynching and the murder and the torture of our brother. That would give them permission. It would feed the energy of the, and the spell work and the dark magic that they have been doing. And so because of this, many of our people have taken on some very negative karma. Quite naturally, you would, though, because any person who does rituals surrounding the death and the lynching and the murder of someone, you regularly do this, you celebrate it, you dance, you're jovial to it, you eat of their flesh, you drink of their blood, you're doing all types of spell work and dark magic surrounding the torture of a soul. You end up with blood on your hands. You end up being the accomplice and the witness to a murder, and yet you glorify it and tell your children to glorify it. Many of the spell work and the dark magic that has worked against us, I've told you all, it was already shown to me that the curses in Deuteronomy was definitely dark magic and spell work that was done over our people by the enemy, not by the Most High God, but by the enemy, okay? And they tricked us into believing that the curses in Deuteronomy was something that we had earned. Now I'm starting to see why we believed it. Because subconsciously, for generations, our people felt like we deserved it, all because we glorified the murder of our own brother. We gave gifts to one another to celebrate the murder of our own brother. We cooked meals to celebrate the murder of our own brother. We never allowed Yeshua's soul to find rest. That's the ultimate blood sacrifice that we played a role in. And so until we actually acknowledge the role that we played in supporting the murder of our brother, we will remain under the spell. We will continue to attract negative karma to us. The enemy will continue to do blood sacrifices against people that look just like you and me. Why? Because they say, there's no way that you have a problem with blood sacrifice when in fact you glorify it every Sunday. You glorify it every time you go out and tell people, I'm a witness of Jesus. You're glorifying it. And then they turned around and they gave it a face. They turned it into a God that looked just like them. They gave it a face. They gave it a representative. They removed. That's one of the reasons why. That's one of the reasons why they wanted you to forget that Yeshua looked just like you. Because at some point, you would put two and two together and see that, hold on, this is a melanated man that was murdered. That wasn't right. Because they was going to continue, as they have done, to sacrifice and to kill melanated men, women, and children for generations to come. And at some point you will wake up and say, but this looks all too familiar. This feels all too familiar. They did this to my brother Yeshua. So no, I'm not going to sacrifice. I'm not going to glorify this. I'm not going to give praise to this. I'm not going to celebrate this. I'm not going to do these rituals surrounding this and pretend that I'm doing this death and rebirth through baptism and all of these different things and throw money at my pastor's feet to celebrate what he is teaching about what was done against my brother. I will not. You would have woken up too soon had they shown you that Yeshua was a melanated man that was killed, murdered, lynched, a straight public blood sacrifice that was done. That's why they had to change his image. Because it would be easier for you to receive it subconsciously because you understood that your oppressor is the European. Your oppressor looks like the European. Now, of course, I'm not saying that every single European is bad. We're not even about to go there. Let's stay to the topic at hand here, because some of y'all are going to take this the wrong way, but it doesn't even matter because I'm not here to coddle. I tell y'all this all the time. They had to change the face. They had to change the image to make Jesus look just like the oppressor. That way you would be more readily, you would more readily sacrifice and you would more readily celebrate and dance and glorify the sacrifice, the murder. And you would be able to stay asleep and under the spell that much longer. Because somewhere subconsciously you felt like it was right. Oh, yes, it's right that he was killed because he was a white man. It's right that he was killed and that he was murdered. Because subconsciously you want vindication for your people, for your ancestors, for your lineage who was killed, murdered, and lynched by the European man. This is why they did not allow you to remember that Yeshua was in fact a melanated man. So now the question is, what do we do about this? Before I came on camera, I was guided to first do what I needed to do for myself and my lineage to clear this energy. It's time that we allow Yeshua's soul to finally have rest and to acknowledge what happened to Yeshua. And I strongly feel that by acknowledging what happened and by clearing out that energy of what your part, the role that you and your ancestors played in celebrating his murder, it will then be a direct message in the spiritual realm to the enemy that they can no longer do blood sacrifices to our husbands, our wives, our children, our men and our women, and our melanated community. It will be a direct message, but we have to first fix this in the spiritual realm because too much damage has been done for generations. And so we got to start spiritual. Removing yourself from the church was not enough. And I had to come to recognize that. And it's, I can feel it. I can feel it stirring here because it's like, when you think about it, that's some heavy shit right there. In my awakened state, I would never celebrate the murder and the blood sacrifice of my people. I would never celebrate that. I wouldn't even celebrate the murder and blood sacrifice of someone that did not look like me. So what part of, you just have to know that we have been underneath a heavy, heavy spell to dance, to shout, to celebrate, yes, thank you for dying. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you. Giving thanks that this man was killed. Glorifying it and telling our children to get up and dance about it and to shout about it. For those of you who receive this message that really understand where I'm coming from, that have truly awakened and that see this with your spiritual eyes, I'm going to give you a declaration that needs to be done. You want to write this on paper. You want to burn this. You want to give acknowledgement to the Most High and your spiritual team. And you want to address and acknowledge Yeshua. And let him know that you're asking for his forgiveness for the role that you played in the torture of his soul. You also want to get you a white candle because there's something that you're going to be writing on the white candle. You want to get a white candle in glass, generally more like a 7-day candle, and you're going to get a permanent marker and write on the glass. So I'll tell you what to do for both. If this is something that you feel drawn to do, I know that there's other spiritual warriors out there that will do this with me, but this is very, very important. I've never felt like this about any other message that I've brought forward. The curses in Deuteronomy was pretty, that was pretty deep in and of itself to be shown that. But this right here, this right here cuts deep because it just didn't even dawn on me what role I played in celebrating his demise until now. So you're going to write on a paper, you're going to say, I declare and decree that all rituals, praise, celebration, honor, prayers, tithes, ceremonies, communions, and all wicked rituals done to glorify the murder of Yeshua. Yes, this is a run-on sentence. I don't care. The murder of Yeshua performed by myself, my ancestors, and offspring, is now destroyed, now and forevermore, in spirit and in flesh. You're going to burn this. You're going to write this down and burn it. So I'm going to say it one more time. For those of you who end up putting it in the comments below, shout out to y'all, because I really do appreciate you all for that. I declare and decree that all rituals, praise, celebration, honor, prayers, tithes, ceremonies, communions, and all wicked rituals done to glorify the murder of Yeshua, performed by myself, my ancestors, and offspring, is now destroyed, now and forever, in spirit and in flesh. You're going to burn that. Then you're going to get you a white candle and glass, and you're going to get you a permanent marker and write on the glass of that candle: let the highest form of righteous judgment be served upon the heads of the enemy of Yeshua. Let justice prevail on his behalf. Let his soul rest in peace, in spirit and in flesh. I'm going to say it again. On a white candle, the glass of a white candle, you're going to write with a permanent marker: let the highest form of righteous judgment be served upon the heads of the enemy of Yeshua. Let justice prevail on his behalf. Let his soul rest in peace, in spirit and in flesh. And you're going to let that candle burn through in a safe place. This message is very important. You know, it's been about 4 days since I've done a message, and sometimes, you know, the Most High and my spiritual team, they just make me be silent for a while, because, you know, I've been doing like interviews or whatnot and readings, but I knew it was something that I needed to speak, but I just didn't know what it was. And literally today, like not maybe even 30 minutes before I turned on this camera, was when this message was revealed to me. Not everybody is going to receive it, but for those of you that do, this is very, very powerful, and it's very, very necessary. So I love you all. I look forward to hearing from you. If you want a private reading, you know what to do. You know to email me. If you want to donate to my channel, you may donate to my Cash App. I'll leave that in the description box. And please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel so we can get this message out there. North, south, east, and west. Spread it far and wide for those of you who hear what I'm saying and you feel it in your heart. You know it to be true. Like this message so that it can be spread around, because, you know, these things, they don't put these types of messages in the algorithm, because this is tearing down a structure. For those of you that are spiritual warriors out there, you know what this is. You know what it means. And I know that this message has awakened something within you, and that you will carry out the assignment to vindicate the soul of Yeshua and to finally allow him to have his rest. So I love you all, and I'll talk to you all next time.